Thursday, we met with Sherrone Moore for just the second time since he has been named the head coach of the University of Michigan football team. And he had a lot to say that I found very interesting, including, but not limited to, a lot of what we said on Wednesday's episode. Pretty much verbatim. It's like he listens to the show. But we're going to get into the interesting things that Sherrone Moore said on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Friday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. I was on the ground on Thursday in Ann Arbor. I was not today for Pro Day due to the inclement weather north of Ann Arbor. Recognized it would end in a car accident if I got in the car. I drove about 15 minutes, and which was 5 minutes in normal time. And I'm like, I turned around, and thankfully Michigan sent me a lot of audio, but I'm still kind of pouring through that, so I don't really know a lot of what was said after Pro Day, and we're just starting to get results literally as we record here from Michigan as to what the guys did. So I will get to an interesting J.J. McCarthy tidbit or two on the tail end of the show, but let's talk about Sherrone Moore, who I think the first thing that I want to bring up is the fact that he said pretty much all of the same stuff I said on the Wednesday episode. And if you didn't watch or listen to the Wednesday episode, go back and watch or listen to that. I felt weirdly very accomplished after that episode. I don't know why. I just felt like I was like firing on all cylinders on that show. So check that out, regardless of the fact that I'm going to be rehashing a little bit of it right now. Just a little bit. We're not going to make the whole show the same. But he talked about the fact that when he was asked about like winning the national championship and what that looks like, the significance of what it is. And he says, I think it's huge. We all know the work and what it feels like to get to that point. We all know what it feels like from an internal standpoint, from what people felt from the outside. We all know what it took. I think it's huge for us, huge for people that were in this building, and huge for the people that saw it from the outside to feel it from the people on the inside, especially more important, the players that are here. They're the ones doing all the work. I think for us to have a nucleus of players that are coming back and taking the lead. You've seen guys step up in leadership roles. I think probably for me, the coolest part is for a guy like Donovan Edwards to become a leader on the team and take action on and off the field. It's been awesome to watch. It's crazy to think that he's a senior now, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned a bunch of other guys and everything there. But so we talked about players stepping up as leaders, essentially knowing what it takes. I mean, he was asked about knowing what it takes to win a national championship, but he kind of went on a couple points about the culture being different, right? And even with like NIL and stuff like that, he mentioned like, we've got the culture, it's about, it's kind of like what J.J. McCarthy said today, which was process over prize. That's the type of thing that he had to say about it. And I'm trying to peruse to see if I can find some of the same stuff. But I mean, it at certain points, I'm watching Sherrone standing, 15 feet away from me, echoing the sentiments that I said on Wednesday, which were all good things about the direction of the program under Sherrone. So that is really, really big. That is huge for this Michigan team. What's surprising the most about this group of players? Probably the maturity and the level of satisfied but not satisfied. This is part of what I was talking about. They want more. They always got that chip on their shoulder. You win the Natty. You would think people would be so satisfied that we won the Natty, and that's it. That's not it. We want more. That's going to be what we keep doing, not trying to make it a pun on my name either, by the way. But that's just what they want. They want it all. They want to continue to win. They want to know what it feels like to win, and they're going to work their tails off to continue to do that and carry on the tradition for Michigan. So these are all exactly the types of things that you want to hear, considering that's basically what I said on Wednesday. So it's the culture is seemingly still very much alive in Ann Arbor. It's still very much progressing in the same direction as it already was, which bodes very well for the here and now. Now the quarterback, that still is going to be the key important piece here, because Michigan did make its first big step with Cade McNamara. So you can win the Big Ten without having that otherworldly quarterback. But keep in mind, conference has expanded. Things are a little bit different. You play some different teams. Ohio State is continuing to assemble a offensive weaponry super team, but without having the line play to go along with it. But so as long as you keep your identity in toughness, you at least need a quarterback that can do some things. Now, Sherrone talked about the quarterbacks, said nothing that was particularly new or out of the ordinary, right? Jack Tuttle being a veteran, he seems to be working through some kind of injury at the moment, but he's a little bit more athletic than people think. Obviously, Alex Orji has the ability to run, but he says he's got a live arm on him. Just because you haven't seen him throw doesn't mean he can't do it. You've got Jaden Denegal is a little bit more of a pocket passer. You've got Davis Warren, kind of a little bit of mix of all of them. And then Jaden Davis, as he says, quote, the young freshman, very excited about him. He's picked up stuff super fast. But you never know with him as a freshman, but so we'll see. But he has all the abilities. So excited for him. He's kind of a mix of all of them. He can do a little bit of everything. So super excited for him. So that's going to be the key piece, I think, for this team is being able to be able to put out a quarterback that is able to kind of lead it. And I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, they'll get a shot and there will be the transfer portal. Listen, these guys were recruited for a reason and they've been around for a while, and the culture helps build people up, right? And I understand a lot of people are going to look down on, I think people were really excited about Alex Orji, but it was kind of like, he's probably not going to be the starting quarterback. But I think when you look at a Jalen Milroe, I think that there's a path there. And I think that him being able to have a whole bowl season to emulate Jalen Milroe honestly helps his development in ways that probably he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Jaden Denegal, albeit by only one recruiting service, if memory serves, he was a 4-star. Jack Tuttle was a 4-star as well. Did not look great during his tenure at Indiana when called upon, but it's Indiana. It's hard to look great as a quarterback. But he was also coming in to spell Michael Penix, who did look pretty good as a quarterback at Indiana. Jaden Davis, a former 5-star, and Davis Warren, who likely would have been rated much higher had it not been for his leukemia, which kind of kept him away from the game. So they have really good options. They just might not be Julian Sayin and Aaron Noland. I mean, Jaden Davis is on the same par as Aaron Noland, but they just might not be those super high-end guys. I mean, by the end of it, J.J. McCarthy wasn't even necessarily that. He was kind of in the same boat as Jaden Davis, not quite as precipitous of a fall, but still. So I think that there are really good options and opportunities there, especially for guys who know the system. They know the confines in which they're playing under. And then you add in that J.J. McCarthy said today that, hey, with Kirk Campbell leading the charge offensively, like this thing might open up a little bit, right? Like the leash has been taken off. We'll get to that part, and we'll get to more of the Sherrone Moore and some of the J.J. McCarthy stuff, because I thought he had a lot of interesting things to say. We'll get to all of that here in just a moment. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. With our special offer, go to manscaped.com and use the code LOCKEDON for 20% off plus free shipping. After using Manscaped, I can finally say I have caught the spring fever. Introducing the season's champ, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th-generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little bit off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also uses dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Hate making a mess? Not to worry. This bad boy is waterproof. Shave in the shower, in the bath, or in the ocean. Don't shave in the ocean. That's just weird. I love this thing because it comes with a compact case and I can take it everywhere I go. Spring cleaning doesn't just apply to the nether regions. Get the full grooming experience with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit plus Handyman electric face shaver. Whether you're looking to craft your signature look or clean up that neckline, they're always the right tools for the job. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but before we do that, there's been a lot of times where I've had frustrating moments buying tickets for things Even today, I had a pre-sale for Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham for the Summer Worship Nights on August 1st. And I got kicked out of the pre-sale like 4 times before I was able to get the ticket. So didn't quite get as quite a good seats as I was hoping on that. So what I should have done is just waited for game time to have them available. Now it's pre-sale. I wanted to get in early. But game time, the greatest part of it is you don't have to worry about when you buy tickets for your next big event. Game time is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. From last-minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, all kinds of stuff. The views from your seat are the best part, in my opinion. Game time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. You see the views from your seat before you buy. You know exactly what you're going to be looking at when you get there. All-in prices show you exactly what you're paying for. There's no hidden fees or anything like that. You know that you're getting a great deal before you check out. You buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. None of the rigmarole that I went through earlier today, going directly through BrandonLake.co. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so there was a lot to like, again, from what Sherrone Moore said. There's a lot to like from what JJ McCarthy said. Let's mix it up a little bit. Let's pivot to JJ a little bit earlier here than I was intending. And let's talk about what he thinks the Michigan offense will look like, because I already had mentioned that. So what he said, he had this quote. He said, "I'd say it's very similar to recent years just because it's been working, so why would you change something that isn't broke?" But then he kind of demurs a little bit and says, "So I would say there will be more nuances in the pass game with Coach Campbell being able to call plays. That's one of the most knowledgeable, if not the most knowledgeable guy in the country from an offensive standpoint. And being able to let him get more leash and have reins over the play calling is going to be huge. He's going to mix up a lot of different things and give the defense a lot of different looks. And then whoever starts a quarterback, they're going to just attack them in the run game, attack in the pass game, and it's going to be very interesting to watch." So it's 2 kind of divergent thoughts right there, right? Like you've got him talking about it's like, oh, it's really not going to change. But at the same time, it's like the handcuffs are coming off. It's about to get real. Now, I said this in the article that I wrote for Wolverines Wire, like at the same time, and like, maybe you would have thought that, like, okay, Sherrone being the offensive coordinator, getting interim head coach opportunity, you would have thought like, okay, the shackles are off. Now he can go. And instead he ran the ball 32 straight times against Penn State. Now, granted, we know the mitigating circumstances there, unlike a lot of box score, watchers who are like, JJ only threw it 8 times. They don't trust him. It's like, well, dude was injured and, they couldn't protect against Chop Robinson, and Penn State couldn't stop the run, and so why change? But at the same time, I'm a little skeptical that the offensive coordinator, interim head coach, who had that game plan in game is going to suddenly be like, you know what? Let's go nuts. Let's just toss the ball everywhere, right? Like I'm a little skeptical of that, but maybe, right? Like I think that there's a lot that they have that they can work with. Let's tie it back to Sherrone Moore and some of the skill talent that he had talked about. Let's see. Problem is I've got just stuff all over the place here, so I'm reading the transcript. Obviously, he's mentioned Donovan Edwards. He's mentioned Colston Loveland. He mentioned Tyler Morris. So I'm just trying to find where he talked about them. Could do this a lot faster and just go Morris. Okay, I can't find it, I guess. Donovan. All right. Well, this is what I was going to talk about in segment 3, but like he talked about like some of the players that he feels have stepped up and so far in spring ball. He had 2 practices at this point. This is the guys you would think: Colston, the Masons, Donovan's, all those guys. Quarterbacks are competing and playing at a high level. So there are those guys who are stepping up, but I think that the offense just kind of feels like, based off of what Donovan said, based off of some of the things that Sherrone said, I do think it will naturally be a little bit different just because you don't have J.J. McCarthy at the helm and you don't have Blake Corum, and because Donovan, it's like, it's kind of a weird thing to look at him because you say like, well, he is so talented. So, but like he kind of got put in a box, and that box was the Blake Corum box, right? Like, this is what Blake Corum is good at. So therefore this is what we are going to do. And what Blake Corum was good at is what Hassan Haskins was mostly good at. So it was kind of the same formula, but now you have Donovan Edwards, who is a different style of running back. So I feel like you're going to utilize him a little bit differently, right? It's kind of going back to what Kirk Campbell said last week. So you utilize him a little bit differently, and in order to, and then you look at the fact that you don't necessarily, outside of Frederick Moore, you don't have the big, tall wide receiver that you can sit there and say like, okay, yeah, you just throw the ball to him, right? You've got the more diminutive, speedy guys. Weirdly, kind of in the vein of the Josh Gaddis speed and space that never quite matriculated. That's kind of what the players that you have now, the Samaj Morgans, the Tyler Morrises, and even the new incoming guys, Marion Stewart and the other guy whose name escapes me at the moment. So it's Chenandler Bong. Nope. The Goodwin. Channing Goodwin. There it is. I was determined to get there. Nonetheless, I feel like that type of room mixed with Donovan Edwards, and yes, you have Kalel Mullings, who's a little bit more in the vein of the Hassan Haskins type. I feel like that necessitates, though, a little bit more of a different, unique approach. So I feel like what is going to happen is you're going to see the offense be aggressive in different ways. And I'll be curious to see because, like, no, we haven't had a long track record of seeing what Sherrone Moore and his prowess is, right? Because he spent the first 3 years in Ann Arbor as a tight ends coach, and then he was a co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. So we at least saw the offensive line move along. The next year, he's splitting offensive coordinator duties with Matt Weiss. Last year was the only year, and Michigan ultimately kind of conservative because it didn't need to be crazy, which a lot of people still don't understand in college football because they still look at it and say, well, why weren't you just, why was JJ not throwing for 5,000 yards? Well, because they didn't need to, and they didn't want to. That's a big difference than he couldn't. So I do think, though, things will change a little bit because of the playmakers you've got. And because the coaches now do have the shackles taken off of them a little bit, right? It isn't going to be Jim Harbaugh style necessarily. I think it will have the same mentality, but it's going to be a little bit different at the same time. All right, let's move on. I do want to mention a couple players that Sherrone Moore said that I had asked him the question, what players that we haven't really seen that are standing out. We will get to them. I will talk very briefly on the Greg Scruggs of it all, and I will get to one more thing that J.J. McCarthy said that I thought was really prescient. And we'll get to all those things here in just a moment. But before we do, this week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The Oakland Golden Grizzlies are obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in the first round upset against the Kentucky Wildcats, giving them their biggest win in program history. As a hours-long Oakland Grizzlies fan, I mean, I'm just ecstatic like most of you. They say, win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Golden Grizzlies have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, let's continue on here. Finish this out here. So J.J. McCarthy also kind of echoed some of my sentiments about the culture. As did Cam Good. I thought that they both had some really good points here. And first, Cam Good. He said today, it's the brand, it's the brand. You see that block M, it's really hard to leave it. Talking about NIL, transfer portal, the fact that Michigan's only lost really one major player to the transfer portal, despite all the coaching turnover, all of this stuff. He said, I know a lot of people love the Bamas of the world, Ohio States of the world. When I saw that Block M call my phone, I felt like it was the only place I needed to go. A lot of the people will understand the brotherhood here. It doesn't matter who the coaches are, your teammate who is next to you. So people know that this one is one locked in mindset. They're not going to transfer because it's one goal. And that's the reason why people don't transfer. Then JJ McCarthy says at one point here, and let me try to get through here. He's talking about how when he came, NIL wasn't a thing initially and all of that. But he said it was about NIL and all of this stuff. The way it's influencing players to go transfer because of the money, to go to a certain school because of the money, it's just something that it's sad because at the end of the day, going to college is all about developing you and turning you into a grown man. You lose that kind of fundamental aspect of the developmental process. But it's just part of it now. I see this route going more towards like a semi-pro and getting away from the NCAA, but now who knows how it's going to turn out. Yada, yada, yada. Continues on and says like basically about getting money from the NIL. He says, I don't really have to do anything. It's a beautiful thing about this place is that guys love playing football. They love winning, and what better place to come to than that? They understand the process of it, and it's not about the outcome. It costs more. It's always about process over prize. And then if you worry about the process, then the prizes are just going to be inevitable. They're going to come your way. So feel like this program is unique and different compared to every other program in the country, and we're going to keep getting guys that fit that mold. That's also partially kind of what I talked about on Wednesday, is that it is a style of team that is all about the culture. And part of it is just like this, it doesn't really matter about who does whatever. I think I might put that in the other article. Yes, I did, in the NFL article. I'm going to read that quote to you as well, because I think that is also very important here. He says why Michigan prepares them for the NFL. He says it's an inevitable drive that we all push each other, but it's not like anyone stepping on each other's toes. We're all rooting for each other at the same time, so it's a beautiful relationship. It speaks to the culture. Now, let's see how it continues under Sherrone Moore. But under Sherrone Moore, you've seen 4 players step up, and I had asked him what players have that we don't necessarily know about that have impressed you. So he said DJ Waller, who we've seen a little bit, and then he also mentioned Jair Hill. Note that he is a player that everyone was worried about entering the transfer portal. He says, Jair Hill, we call him Shug. He made 2 good plays yesterday. He's been awesome. But then he also mentioned TJ Guy has really stepped up. That would be really nice. Considering like he's a little bit undersized, kind of like Josiah Stewart, so he could be like that rotational guy. And then, excuse me, that's been coming a long time. Eno Etta is the one that he also mentioned who could be the Derek Moore of this year. He says, Eno Etta, super excited about him, what he can do. I reserve judgment for the offensive line like I always did until the pads come on. But of Eno Etta, I think is a name that we really desperately, absolutely needed to hear. So that's always the thing I'm interested in is what guys are impressing. It's the perennial question that I asked Jim Harbaugh in fall camp. And it's something that everyone always asks now. And I asked Sherrone of that this time. And I think that those are exciting players to know that they're stepping up. DJ Waller being a big, tall guy, kind of in the mold of, he's even bigger than like your Channing Striblings or Jeremy Clarks, I think. And to pair him potentially with Will Johnson would be interesting. And Jair Hill certainly has more of that ability to play nickel. That obviously gives some opportunity if those guys start really stepping up. And, honestly, like kind of forgot about them. DJ Waller was injured during bowl prep and was in street clothes for both of the bowl games. And I think even all the way back into the Big Ten championship, maybe. I don't remember exactly. But Jair Hill was one that just everyone was a little bit concerned about, had some maturity issues, and seems to have worked through some of those and is still doing well and on the team. Greg Scruggs officially resigned right before Sherrone's press conference. I didn't see any other outcome, especially because it was revealed that he, and that's discredit to Alejandro Zuniga from the Michigan Insider, that he had blown double the limit. to me, there was no way that he could get out of that, right? Like it wasn't just, like I said, sometimes there are some mitigating circumstances, and even with the mitigating circumstances, I thought, potential, he had to go. I've known people, I've been on the phone with my first ever girlfriend, had one drink and pulled out of the bar. I was on the phone with her the whole time, pulled out of the bar, and then got pulled over and blew over the limit because she had just literally did a quick shot and it just raised everything. So I could understand if Michigan was in a circumstance where that was the case, but if it was more it's 9 p.m. He had a glass of Bacardi 151 for some reason and then got immediately in the car and drove. Still bad, terrible judgment. But I could see where if Michigan was to kind of reel things back for a second and say okay, we're not going to fire him over this, but we got to get him some help or whatever. Regardless, again, I want to make my point clear because a lot of rival people out there like to try to make it sound like I said something I didn't. I said earlier in the week, and I'm reiterating now that he had to go. It didn't really matter what the mitigating circumstances were. He had to go. I'm just saying that those potential circumstances in which Michigan could have maybe said, maybe we don't move on, those didn't apply here. So he absolutely had to go. Doesn't seem to be any worry about the players from what Sherrone Moore had said. He even mentioned something. I'm trying to find it quickly, but I can't really mention about Mason. Talking to Mason and how he's just been all in for the team and all this kind of stuff. But they're working by committee to kind of help things along there. So that is it. It's a bad spot to be in, but we'll see where they go. Gives us more to talk about here in spring ball, where we're still kind of shut out a little bit of the process. Maybe that changes. Again, new regime. It just started. Who knows what will come from it? Don't have any basketball to talk about at the moment, so we will see where it goes. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Hoping to have a Saturday episode earlier in the day. That is the plan. As you know, plans often don't always work on the weekends, but I kind of did some of the things I would normally do on the weekend through the week. So we will do our best. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you soon. Peace.